Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Mondays with Micah. I hope you have been excited about this grief education. Can you get excited about grief education, Trish?
No.
Well, I do. Okay, so I don't know if you have gotten excited about some of these different episodes, but we are bringing you a new one. This is Trish Tsitsera. We go back how many years now?
At least 10.
Okay, 10. That's more than I thought. I was saying 6 in my mind, so that's good. That's how much time is flying. Trish Tsitsera has basically can do anything. That's what I can tell you here today. This lady, with someone who's not a gifted administrator, I think you're basically a superstar. Because anything that needs to get done, she can do it. And that is encouraging to me that there's females in the world that can just continue to connect the community, connect with this organization. And who does she work for? She works for the United Way. And I have been wanting to bring on as many different local resources, and the United Way is another one of the resources that has grant capabilities. You're kind of the in between, if you want to say,
right. Yep.
The liaison to funding a lot of good things here in Franklin and Southampton County. And it's called the Franklin and Southampton United Way. So
Correct.
it is designated to this area. There's United Ways all over the country, right? It's a national.
It is an international organization.
Okay, see, so I'm going to pass it over to her. But just to give a little backstory, I think it was actually my brother-in-law was asked to be on the board.
Correct.
And then he passed it to me and thought I would like it. And I thought, that sounds interesting. And I've worked downtown Franklin my entire life. And I'm in a learning season, wanting to grow and learn about things I had never been on a board before. And it was so much fun. It was so much fun. And every spring they do something called the Citizens Review Committee, and you kind of come on at the beginning of the year, right?
Correct.
So it was within 3 to 4 months of me being on the board, and that was once a month doing a meeting and discussing things that we got to do this Citizens Review. And I was floored by the amazing nonprofits. Not all of them are nonprofit, but all of them are nonprofits in our community. So it was my beginnings of getting exposed to nonprofits. And I do not believe I would have started my own nonprofit without this tutelage. So for me, there's history with the United Way, and the message is in the name, that there's a way when we unite. And it has just been a beautiful thing. On top of that, there has been widows and widowers that have been on the board throughout the years with the United Way. And so I started connecting some of the dots. And why am I doing this here today? To connect more dots for you. That if you are a widow or widower, there is amazing places and resources and nonprofits to get involved with. If you feel like you don't know what to do with your life once your spouse passes away and you have time and you kind of feel a little disjointed, some people say they don't feel some purpose, that sometimes just volunteering, you don't have to commit forever to this stuff. It's every year you get to, or 2 years, right, at a board.
Mm-hmm. Two to three.
And I carried over. You can continue on if you want to, and you take on different officer positions to evolve. And it was so much fun. I didn't know half of the organizations when I had lived here for 30 plus years at that point. And I said, oh my gosh, how much else is around here that we don't know exists? So I want to bring awareness to the United Way to you here today. And if you have been helped by the United Way, we would love for you to comment below and share this resource. This is long content. So these are usually about 30 plus minute videos, but Trish has brought some different printouts about the different categories, and I'm going to pass it over to you.
Okay.
Where would you like to start?
Thank you for those kind words. And yes, it's been 10 years.
I cannot believe that.
You actually came on the board at the exact same time I started as director.
Okay.
So we started on this journey together. Yes.
And I thought she'd been directing her entire life.
Not here. So United Way is kind of like you said, it's the umbrella here of multiple organizations. And we used to be just about raising money and giving money out to other organizations by grants, which is still a huge part of what we do, the big part of what we do, but not the only thing we do.
Right.
So we have expanded to volunteer coordination and community programs and trying to do our own programs in the community to kind of stay relevant and on top of the needs that the community has. As you mentioned with the grants and the nonprofits, their average is 17 to 20 a year that we support. And they do all have to be nonprofits that serve Franklin or Southampton County. We give on average about $100,000 in grants a year to those.
And that's significant. Now, when I was on that board, I didn't get to be a part of the United Way when international paper was in its heyday, if we'd like to call it. And so the grant funding was double,
at least, yeah.
at least double. So she's saying they give about 100,000, and I think at times there was maybe even 130 some thousand.
In the heyday, we were doing 300.
300,000.
Things have changed a lot.
And so you think about that $300,000 worth of funding pouring back into local community resources. And so it wasn't just families that took a hit when the mill evolved, but the resources also took a hit. It affected every aspect of our community because the giving back part was limited. And so Trish came on after all of that, years after. It's had to evolve. And that has been the really interesting and I feel like fun part is getting creative with how to realize some of the donors, to be honest, have passed on.
Correct.
And we cannot rely on the old way to carry and remain. And so there has been an evolution before COVID. COVID kind of pushed us in an even further social media growth season. So I just wanted to say that this has been going on here for a long time, and that it was giving even more in its heyday, but it has not stopped.
No, in fact we're on that
Upswing.
Constant upswing of reaching out to other programs and other. We actually are getting grants from other foundations to help with our community programs, and we are, like you mentioned earlier, there are. I think you and I have talked about that our population locally, and especially widowers in particular, have found themselves in either being the donors to nonprofits like ours or the recipients of care. Sometimes both. Sometimes they start out as a donor and they're doing that for years, and then they find themselves in need of services for what the community service and nonprofits provide, or vice versa. They start out needing our services, but then they get to that point in their life that they're able to give back and say, thank you for what you received. Now I want to give back to someone as well.
Exactly.
And that can be financially, or it can be volunteering in person.
Right.
So
that's right.
One of the things we do is, of course, we take donations, and we're always grateful for that. But we also, for those who can't do that financially but want to give of their time, we have programs in our community that we can partner them with our agencies to. Okay, if you're looking to volunteer with the food bank, which is a great resource and always needs volunteers, or the cooperative ministry, or the libraries, or there's so many different things that they can do, and we coordinate that.
Even some beautiful. I want to highlight this too, that there was one resource that we helped. And the gentleman passed away. He was the teacher. He was the coordinator of Franklin.
Ray Williams. With Tyler Youth Services. And
he was phenomenal. And he was that dad to some of these kids that were falling a little below the line. Is that
yeah, they were sort of in jeopardy of being involved with the legal system. They had a lot of truancy, bad grades, that sort of stuff. And the program through Tidewater Youth Services comes in and mentors them, works with them at J.P. King, previously, but now at Franklin High School.
And so he was a mentor, and even though he was older, he loved these kids, and he would come in at this in the beginning of the year when they do that citizens review, and he would show pictures of how he took these kids fishing, and they just had these milestone moments, really, that they probably wouldn't have had otherwise. And he has gone on; he has passed away in the last 5 years or so. I'm not good with timelines anymore. And the United Way and other people, they put a bench
in his memory and at the garden at J.P. King, where he worked with the students to grow vegetables and fruits and plants.
And so not only did he mentor, he helped give them life skills. And part of that was this garden. And so, that is something outside of the scope, we may say, of what the United Way has to do. But because it's relational, and there has been some other benches put out in honor of in this community, and it's just one of those moments where we're like, man, his life mattered. And now there's this bench there that will commemorate him and remember him, thus to remain. And the United Way got to be a part of that. And you felt, whenever he spoke or going to some of those things, you're like, man, he's really making a difference. And he did not get paid well enough to make the difference that he made. And it was the love inside of him for these kids and their future, believing in their future. And those are the things you don't know when you're going to get on a board like the United Way, what you're going to get to walk into and experience. And there's some other different ones that we got to observe, and I was like, wow, I didn't even know there was, child of early illness.
Yeah, I was going to say Edmark is a good one.
Right.
They are a pediatric hospice program.
Right.
Housed in Portsmouth, but they serve our community and have served several families here who unfortunately had children that were going to pass or, didn't make it past birth. And they work with parents for grief counseling, as you mentioned earlier, which is your education program right now.
Yes.
And they worked on helping the siblings adjust or bringing free healthcare into the home so that you don't have to take the child to the ER and you don't have those bills.
And I would never have known, because really, unless you are a friend of someone walking through this, there is no need to know. But the more we know, the more we can share. And the more these things are happening a little more often than we would like to say. And none of us are immune to some of these hardships. And so how to help you not feel helpless in your hardship is to be informed. And we're wanting to inform you in some other areas so that when you don't know who to call, you check out thewidowwalk.org and start scrolling through these videos to see if anything connects to your need. And hopefully before the end of this year, we're going to build a directory of assistance so that kind of those hotline phone numbers, and then we don't have the yellow pages anymore. We don't have the white pages anymore.
Well, there are a few resources though that we do have. The Virginia Legal Aid Society put together. That's what this is. Great. They put together a resource guide that is actually available on our website under the Get Help tab. Our website is going to be shared in the blog.
We are on this website, you guys. One of their board members and fellow used to be widower, Howie Sochek, he made sure that we got the Widow Walk is on here as a resource. It was not initially. And we have this on our website under the Grief Education tab as well.
And of course, you're looking for information there on crisis assistance, utility and rent assistance, food. There's all sorts of things.
Help with taxes.
Everything. And you can also, there's a program where you can call 211, or you can go to 211.org and you can put in what you're looking for assistance, and that usually directs you to one of the agencies that we work with or to our agency. It's sort of a, I always recommend, though, the best places to call if you're needing assistance for something like utilities and that sort of stuff, rent and food, is the Franklin Cooperative Ministry.
Right.
Because they are in touch with, they have their finger on the pulse of everything in the community. And the Department of Social Services. They work together to go through all these agencies, and all three of them are partner agencies with us.
And they are filling in the gap. So if there are some gaps in your needs because things have changed for whatever reason, that there is some resources here in this community to provide for your hardship. But they are vetting these things, meaning that they are checking and fact checking, because unfortunately these systems can be abused.
Yeah.
And there's not enough money to go around, so the right people need to be getting the care that they need, and they want to spread it to all the people that they can get it to. And that is something that we valued on the United Way with the board, is that when we as a board would ask them questions, they could bring back pertinent information to verify and validate what we needed to know. And that helped the board really feel confident to continue to fund those resources, to increase funding or to decrease funding, depending on the communication and lack of a support in their resources that we've asked for.
Absolutely.
And so there is power in the people. And we did not take that lightly. There was a weight to that. And the questions that the board asked were just really good. And thankfully, that checks and balances was in place.
Yes.
So, meaning, don't just assume if you've been one of the recipients of the United Way that they're always going to give you whatever that amount is. Every year, depending on the funding that they have, there has to be some hard cuts sometimes.
Sometimes, yep.
And so proving that you're still providing the resources that you say you're providing. And now as a nonprofit, it's hard for me to quantify the situation myself, because we're still getting off the ground. And I say we're in toddler land. We've
new, yeah.
We've
strong.
We've been birthed. We're hanging on, but we can't fully walk on our own yet. And so, I didn't know that raising a nonprofit meant you're raising a child, and that's like an 18-year or the rest of your life job. So it is a team effort, and my parenting style is having a village, and that's kind of like a board. You want to build this village that can help reinforce. Trish can't do it all, but the board allows her to call on the other ones to stand with you on some of those things or to go in your behalf.
It's all about collaboration in this community, and we're really good about that, is pulling resources together, reaching out to other organizations, partnering at events, partnering to help, if you find a need in the community that's not being met, come to the table together and figure out, what are we missing, what needs to happen, who can we pull in to help with it.
So some of these things you've mentioned here.
So we sort of concentrate, United Way focuses on youth opportunity, healthy opportunity, community, financial security, and community resilience. So that's sort of education, health education, helping students succeed, helping those that need basic needs like food, shelter from domestic violence, a little bit of everything. But we work on all of that. We bring in events to help with that in the community. I would say we also have some resources available in addition to this.
Okay.
For it might be of particular interest to your group. There is for those who maybe are under the age of Medicare or Medicaid, we have a prescription service through Single Care that helps with prescription discounts. So if you maybe have lost a spouse and lost your health care
income,
and you lost, you no longer have prescription insurance or insurance or medical, you can use the Single Care.
Okay.
That's on our website.
Wow.
You can also utilize the Western Tidewater Free Clinic if you no longer have health insurance or not on Medicaid or Medicare, because they have free medical, dental, emotional support. They have mental health services and prescriptions there as well.
And they're located
They're
in Suffolk.
but they serve Franklin, and
Right.
they can do eligibility meetings here in Franklin. We also have a partnership with freewill.com.
Okay.
So if you've been through losing a spouse, you know how important it is to have a will or to have all that, set your finances straight. You can go online through freewill.com, and through the United Way, you can set up.
And I did not know this. And so another reason why I knew she had more information that I wasn't aware of. And I know I'm thankful I haven't talked exactly to someone who's gone through this, but we know there are times with widows, I think more so than widowers, to be honest, where sometimes they lose their house.
Right.
And they didn't have that will in place. Or if you're not in a financial good space, you don't want to think, oh, I can't afford to
Right.
do legal things, to do legal filings. I can't afford that. But these websites are showing that there is a way.
Absolutely. And if you qualify for free assistance with Virginia Legal Aid, you can call them their law line. And if you qualify, they can assist you with a lawyer.
And they were here recently, last month at the food bank, because upstairs, if you watch that video there, thankfully I had Terry on last month. There's the upstairs that have all the different training office rooms, if you want to call it, for them to have these types of discussions and bring people in. And so they are able to do that more now because of that building. Okay, this is really good. What other resources do we know about?
Well, we talked about, resources that if you need assistance financially and all, but also just those that are looking for more things to do in the community. We have events, we have community events that you can volunteer at, whether it's, the Independence Day celebration for the city, we give out tattoos and items for the community, or whether it's packing, hygiene bags,
Yes.
or collecting items. We have little libraries in the community.
That's right.
That you can visit and get books to read, or you can donate, or you can help us and assist us with.
How many of those is there here?
We currently have two that we put up, one at the Franklin Cooperative Ministry,
Right.
and one at the Parks and Recs building on Oak Street. And we kind of look out for a couple of the other ones in the community. We're trying to get one put up in Hunterdale right now.
Okay,
too. So
cool.
we're looking to expand that. And
There's one at the YMCA.
Absolutely.
I've seen
There's
that.
several in the
Yes,
community.
there's several. So they don't have to keep up with all of them, but they are around, and it's just one of those fun little extra things in town where you can kind of check each one and see. Some may have more kids books in it, some may have more fiction, just depending on the neighbors, really. But I've never been to one that was empty. So
no.
they
Every once in a while, they get right at the beginning of the summer or spring break. We try to keep them full. We take collections of books that we keep in the office.
And I remember with the hygiene, that was another partnership collaboration, because International Paper would help and the YMCA would help, and then we would come in as volunteers with the United Way. And so it was 3 different resources coming together, and they made a lot of those.
We did, yeah. Those were the period packs.
Okay.
We also have a program at the high school that we work with Franklin High School called the Student Wellness Program. And we go in every month during the school year to bring a program to them for mental health or emotional health, to talk about financial. There's all kinds of, physical health. And we partner with the YMCA for that. And so we're always looking for volunteers who want to come in and be a part of the kids' lives, kind of teaching them life skills and working on things to improve their wellness and their well-being. So we always have that going on.
And none of those things are hard, okay?
No,
So
no,
if you feel like, what do you mean we're sitting down and talking to kids? No, they bring them into the lunchroom. There's usually a craft. There's something textile, if you want to call it.
Absolutely.
We get to interact because there's somebody kind of watching each table. You get to meet kids and you can encourage, and that may be, you're just encouraging their creativity of the craft that they're doing. So this is not complex things, but it's a matter of showing up.
It's a matter of being there for the kids, listening to them, offering support, teaching them something new, whether it's about the environment and recycling or about how to, decrease stress in their life and make their surroundings a better, more positive place.
And we all need that.
I would say that.
We all need it.
We actually learned from that
yes.
it's not just the kids that need that, and we've sort of taken that on the road and been working with some adults in that, taking nature on the road,
awesome.
planting succulents or talking about the importance of maybe doing some meditation.
Yeah, grounding.
Like
and I've learned too that I've heard it multiple times that people who garden or planting flowers, gardening, not fruits or plants, whichever way, that if you're dealing with depression, actually, that there's something physiological that happens when you get your hands in the soil, in the dirt. So it's not just, sometimes the word grounding, you think it's your feet, you're getting out in nature. Nature is one of the best free medicine that I'm a huge component of walking. But these kids who are dealing with anxiety, once you put your mind to gardening, put your mind in the soil, put your mind into the flowers, and you get to see progress of a seed to something, to a sunflower, it really helps.
It does. Yep, it does. It to be a part of something else's growth. Yes. And then to mirror that into how you can spread those seeds in the community for kindness.
That's right. That's one of your things, right?
Yep, we do that. Working with young children and planting sunflowers or other things and teaching them about sowing seeds of kindness in the community. Yeah.
And that was one of my favorite creative ideas, because everyone got a little pot and they got to plant it while we were together, but then their goal was to take it home and grow it. And they gave them some like a little sheet for that. And again, they may not have known when they walked in, but you never know what's going to mark somebody.
Right, you don't.
And what little acts of kindness where someone got into a conversation, and this is the important work, not that any but work isn't, but not to take these volunteer moments lightly, because these kids may never get that conversation from anyone else sometimes.
And sometimes they learn skills they've never had,
right?
Or had the opportunity to come out and shine in a field that they didn't even know
they'd be good in. Okay.
So you mentioned walking.
Yes.
We can talk about our Trick or Trot, the City of Franklin Trick or Trot 5K, and the Pumpkin Dash, which is a family fun run. We do that every October, so this year's October 18th.
Yes.
And we are happy to say that the Widow Walk is a sponsor of that.
We are.
With our nourishment station, so that's important, right?
So we bring the snacks,
for the soul and the body.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And there was more snacks than people that really ate them.
We have plenty,
because people last year we got to be a part of that, and it was so fun. You get to see people coming out. It's for a good cause, and it brings people together.
Right. Bringing people to our community to learn more about our community, bringing us all together for something that's healthy, that's getting out there.
Yes.
It's fun. We have it's a Halloween theme, so
yes.
everyone dresses up in costume, and we have costume contest, and it's not about how fast you can do it. We do have some very competitive runners who come from out of town and trying to be the best, but most of everyone that participates is they're setting their personal goal. I want to walk this and finish it, and they do it. And we've had people who didn't think they could and finish it, and then came back the next year and said, I'm going to run it this year.
That's right.
And it's amazing to see the amount of the community that are really participating in that and setting personal goals for themselves.
And there was a woman runner that came out last year, and she wanted to be the first woman, I think, she did it.
She did.
And so that's real. That's not. These runners are pretty competitive around here, and we're happy that the City of Franklin is giving those opportunities. And they weren't all local people. People came from.
We did have people from as far away as Richmond and North Carolina. A couple from outside the area, like Pennsylvania or Florida.
So maybe they're looking up where these these different races are and checking the boxes off. So that made it fun because some people you know, some people you hadn't. Mm-hmm. And why would we want to get involved in that? Again, Howie Sochek, he believes in these things, and he said, you've got it in your name. The Widow Walk is about walking. I said, well, it's really more of a metaphor, yeah. But I am a widow that started walking within probably 2 weeks of my husband passing, and I believe it's been one of the most healing exercise, adding movement into my life. I did not know as a grieving widow how important walking is to regulating your nervous system and just the health, mental health of getting outside, the sun, the birds. The more as time went on and I read more in different books, I realized I didn't even know what I was doing.
You were just doing it.
I was just doing it. Yes, I felt the push to get outside. And then after the fact, I'm like, oh, it helped me with this and this and this. I needed that help in all that list of areas. And so we want to reinforce, I believe we're going to have our own 5K one day, but back to the baby steps. We're not quite there, but thankfully the United Way is ahead of us and has been doing this longer, and so we can kind of partner and collaborate. Absolutely. And so we don't have to carry the full weight of running this because it takes how many months to prepare for a 5K?
It takes a while, but once you've done it, it's
a little bit easier.
It is. You mentioned all the benefits. One of the things is we have a lot of people who are doing it together as a group.
Yes.
So they get together and they walk as, a group of friends who are walking and training. And so that's really, you're bringing in conversation. So you're walking and you're talking and you're getting that additional level of support.
And we have the Blackwater Park.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a new park in our area, and there's 3 different walking paths, if you want to call it there. And then have they finished the river walk yet?
No, they just started on that. They're planting, they've planted things, they're getting the space ready, but they haven't.
So we are going to have another walking area soon. Soon, that could be a year from now, so don't quote me on the timeline. We don't know what it is, but just know that be on the lookout for a water scenery walking space. That is going to be in downtown Franklin. So they're staggered in different areas, and there's more. I mean, there's more things coming as we continue to evolve as a community, and different people come in and new resources come in to be able to fund these creative things that are in town, recreational activities.
There's a lot to do in this community. There's so many musical events to attend that are free.
Yes.
There's
the Vine does a lot of them.
Mm-hmm. The Vine does, Belmont.
Yes, and then
the cities.
The Riverwood Farms. River, is that what it is? Mm-hmm. Yep, they do some different Sunday afternoons. So be on the lookout. There's some new Facebook pages. Follow them on Facebook. If you don't, that's where you see more updates sometimes with events that are coming up. They have ones in August. I mean, almost monthly.
Events, yeah, we have something all the time. We're always, at a community event or a resource fair. It's good to be able to be out in the community giving out items or giving out information or brochures to help people, find.
Do you want to talk about that, Alice? Is that
we can? We were talking earlier about the need for resources, and just to report, to let you know that we have a brand new update on what's called our ALICE report, which stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained but Employed Individuals. So that's people that are living above the poverty level but are still struggling to make ends meet. And in Southampton County, that's 46% of our population are struggling to make the basic survival budget. And in the city of Franklin, it's 43%. So you're looking at almost half of our population struggling to afford the basic necessities. And for us, we look at that survival budget is just the very minimum it takes in our community to afford housing, taxes, childcare if you have it, utilities, transportation. So just the basics. It doesn't prepare you for savings. It doesn't give you money if you have a car repair or have to have, an emergency health procedure. But what would be interesting probably to know for your population, your group, is that if you're a household with a single person over 65, you need $34,788 a year for the minimal survival budget in our community.
Wow.
$51,000 for what they call the stability budget, which is being able to put more into savings and save up and have more. So $34,000 is you have to make that minimum for just one person.
Welcome.
Yeah.
That's not just for people over 65, I would say.
Yeah, no, it is. For,
yeah,
I mean, there's all different levels. Like for a family of 4 here in our community with 2 adults and 2 children, it's $75,576. And that's why, the poverty level is one thing. We know what that is, and there's a lot of assistance and programs through the government for that. But that level above poverty and below what we call the ALISH threshold, which is, those who can't afford, they can afford more than the poverty level, but they're not qualifying for programs. And that's who really needs the services of all these nonprofits.
And you may be one of those people. And so, again, we want you to know, I want you to know that there are resources to help you bridge the gap. I recently watched a movie with my kids called The Unsung Hero. And it was based on a true story. And it was a family that was in Australia, and they were in music of sort. And then they came to Nashville. And when they got there, the job wasn't there. Mm-hmm. And so this is a family, I think maybe of 6 with another on the way. And they were in a house, had no car, had no furniture, just the clothes on their back, and were intended to get a job and did not have a job. Wow. And so in a moment of panic, the wife went into her room and took a pillow and screamed in it. And then she rallied and she got a jar and she put all the money they had, and they sat the kids around the floor, and they were using their clothes as their beds. Okay, so this is below the poverty line here that I'm talking about. And they said, this little jar is going to have more and it's going to have less, but we're never going to run out. And so they took sticky notes and they put their needs and their wants or something like that. And they started writing down what they needed. And the kids had to start working. They started cleaning houses. They started doing lawn work as a way to start growing their assets. And all the kids got involved, and they would put these sticky notes. And there was a scene in the movie where they went to the grocery store and they didn't have enough money to buy all the groceries. And so she said, can I put a few things back? And so when the child got home that night, he took a sticky note and he put on there that food would cost less. Something to that extent. And when they were doing some of the lawn maintenance, another son took some trash, took some debris or whatever to the trash, and he saw these coupon clippings. And the light bulb went off, and he clipped the coupons. And when they went back, he saw that the total went down. And I'm just bringing up a very simple thing that even with these kids, these hardships, the movie was to show, obviously it's a faith-based movie, that these kids, they brought the kids into it. They didn't take this burden on just the parents themselves. And they simplified it down to a Post-it note where they put their need on there and they watched the answers, prayers come to pass. And I believe that it can happen again and again and again. And so sometimes you do have to include your kids in your real life in those moments where you're not getting ends to meet. And that is a hardship for these kids. They'll never forget that stuff. But these resources are here to help bridge the gap, mm-hmm. and sometimes get you back on your feet. So we do not want anyone on here believing that their situation is hopeless, and that I've heard this so many times, Trish, that I don't want to be a burden.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who don't take advantage of the assistance out there because they don't, either there's shame involved, or you don't want to burden someone else, or you think someone else needs it more than you. But That's not always the case. Everyone has been in this situation to need assistance at some point in their life. And as I said earlier, you may need it today, but in the future, you're the one giving it back.
That's right.
It's cyclical. So, I've certainly in my lifetime going through things have had to, be a single mom or a family who lost employment at International Paper when it closed and had to reach out and have services.
Yep.
And now I'm in the position to be able to give back.
That's right.
So
they're there when you need them.
Exactly. It's not about that. It's about being a village, like
That's
you
right.
said earlier, and being able to work together. And you may need assistance from someone to help you with a short-term crisis, but you can give back in other ways, even if it's just giving advice
That's
and
right.
sharing with someone else where you got assistance and help, because you're not the only one that needs it.
That's right. And that is, isolation is really one of the biggest killers. And those things, as she said, it's embarrassing to sometimes have to show your hand, but these resources are here for you. They were designed with you in mind. And so they're waiting for your call. And so it isn't a burden to them. They're excited to take your case. But sometimes we can get overwhelmed because there's more cases than sometimes the resources there are. So we're never burdened by you. We're burdened by the scope of the need.
The lack of funding is the only burden.
Yes, the lack of funding. And so I have said this many times. I'm like, where's our gold? Where's the oil in this community? Because there's this thing of lack of funding. And I really started to pray about that. And I'm like, where is it? Because I don't want to keep hearing this. There has to be a solution to this. And the thought came to me, it's you. We're the untapped resource. Where is the untapped resource that we don't know about? It's inside of us. And I was like, okay, what are we capable of that we don't believe we're capable of? And that's what is so fun, is to get around people that kind of think outside the box sometimes. And you do have to get around the round table and have some pretty hard conversations, because hearing those numbers of 43%, 46%, it doesn't make you feel that good.
No.
And what it lets me know is everyone's kind of surviving right now. No one's thriving, meaning you've got the savings, and no one has a hedge fund around here, okay? Nobody has this hedge fund to cover everything. And there's credit card debt. There is, and some of that may be from lack of training and lack of support.
Or emergencies that arise and you have no other choice because you don't have enough in savings to cover it.
Right. And so we can't fix all of that, but piece by piece, you'll get your piece back. Okay, that's what I found. You can't, what's the phrase about the elephant? You can't
ignore the elephant in the room.
Or you can't take a bite. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Yes.
Like you may be able to move around your resources. Like if you're short, you can't pay your utility bill, you could go get free food from the food bank.
Yes.
You don't have to do anything to qualify for it. You can just go to the mobile distributions and get it. So that's, you can take from areas you need.
Right.
Even if it's going without internet at home for a little while.
That's right.
But you go to the library and you utilize their free internet, or take home
Starbucks
the Wi-Fi that they can send home with you. So,
that's right. Yeah. And so there is different ways. It's not learning how to work the system. It's learning what the system and the resources there are. And the library is there to help you. And some of these other coffee shops and different places, they have internet too. So we're growing in our capacity to be able to serve in some other areas. Is there any final words you have, Trish? Does that cover it?
I think, it's just about, like you said, being a part of the village and working together, knowing what your resources are, where to, you may not know the answer to what you're looking for, but to be able to figure out where to go to start asking the questions. And that's, working together in this community, and all of us working together to make it better. I will say one thing about the community. It is small and we don't have unlimited resources, but our community is a giving community.
Thank you.
Our businesses, our individuals.
Yes.
Some people will give from their heart even when they don't have it to give. And that's amazing. It says a lot for our community. We pull together when we need to.
We're resilient. You can't, and my father-in-law used to say, you can't drown a great town. You can't drown a great town, and sometimes you feel like you're drowning in your life and drowning in your lack of finances, drowning, and that's a phrase when we're overwhelmed by things. But all I can say is that it helped grow me up to learn things that I didn't know I needed to learn to prepare me for something that I had no idea I would even do. So when you go in open-hearted and open-handed, not only do you learn about what's available here, you get to meet amazing people, you get to rub shoulders with people, even sweat sometimes, because some of it is sweat equity and the volunteering that happens at the United Way. I never walked away not laughing. There's goodness is really the best way. Joy. I mean, you feel good with this resource, and we hope with the Widow Walk that you'll be able to say the same as the years go on, that we didn't talk the talk, we walk the walk, and we're here to walk with you. And if we can't help you, we're trying to educate you on who can, and the more that the village is educated, the more hands that can help each other. And so many hands make light work, and that's what we're here to do, is to lighten the load that a lot of us are carrying. And so thank you for watching another episode. This will be coming here soon in the month of June. I'm not sure which week this will be playing, but just know you'll be seeing this month. And we've got, let's see, who else? We got to talk with the YMCA. And some of the ladies that I've been meeting with there, with a little partnership we've been doing. And I'm gonna have Pete Twisdale on here too, because he's been kind of serving the people mobily. So
it's a great service for this community.
So there's some younger entrepreneurs out there that are starting businesses and really bridging the gap. There's some areas that he saw a need, and so he figured out how to meet the need, and it's turned into a business. So we're going to continue to talk about that. See you next time. Bye.